Bruno Mars was not born into a world of luxury, fame, or fortune. He was born Peter Jean Hernandez on the 8th of October, 1985, in the city of Honolulu, Hawaii. His childhood, however, was full of music and creativity, which would later shape his future. Growing up in a family that loved music, he was surrounded by sounds from every corner of the world. His father was a musician, and his mother, though not a professional singer, had a deep love for the arts. His entire family played instruments and often got together to perform. This made music feel like second nature to Bruno. From the time he could walk, Bruno's love for music began when he was a very young child. He would watch his father perform in various small local clubs and bars in Hawaii. Bruno was drawn to the stage and the spotlight, feeling an inexplicable pull towards the music that filled the air. His father, a man of Puerto Rican descent, was often seen strumming his guitar and singing classic songs in a mix of rock and Latin styles. From a young age, Bruno found himself absorbed in these performances. He started singing when he was just 2 years old, and by the time he was 4, he was already able to mimic the songs his father performed. He would often entertain the family with renditions of popular songs that his father played on the guitar. As Bruno grew older, his passion for music only deepened. At the age of 6, he started to perform in front of audiences. One of his most memorable moments as a child performer was when he impersonated Elvis Presley. Bruno's family often took him to local talent shows, and he began to develop his skills as a performer. His ability to capture the essence of Elvis, complete with the lip curls and the moves, quickly gained the attention of those around him. Bruno became known as Little Elvis in his local community. This was when he realized that music wasn't just a hobby or something to pass the time, it was his destiny. Despite his early success as a child performer, Bruno's road to stardom was not easy. The industry was tough, and his family did not have the connections or resources to push him into the spotlight. Bruno knew he had to work harder than ever to stand out, so he made the decision to leave Hawaii and pursue his dreams in Los Angeles when he was 18. Moving to LA was a huge leap of faith for the young singer. He arrived with nothing but his talent, a few dollars in his pocket, and big dreams in his heart. It was a city where everyone seemed to have a dream, and the competition was fierce. Bruno was just one of thousands of hopefuls trying to make it in the music industry. At first, things did not go as planned. Bruno struggled to find his place. He spent years trying to get noticed, but found himself constantly rejected by major record labels. He auditioned for countless record companies, hoping someone would see his potential. Despite his undeniable talent, the doors kept closing. There were moments when Bruno thought about giving up, but he refused to let go of the dream that had been with him since childhood. He knew that in order to make it, he had to keep going, no matter how many obstacles were in his way. During this period of struggle, Bruno did everything he could to stay in the game. He worked with different producers, wrote songs, and performed at small clubs. He was living on a tight budget, sometimes struggling to pay for rent, but he kept his eyes on the prize. Every small gig he played, and every song he wrote, brought him one step closer to his dream. Bruno worked hard, never losing sight of the goal he had set for himself. It wasn't just about being famous. For Bruno, it was about sharing his music with the world, telling stories through his songs, and connecting with people. While Bruno was working hard to get his music out there, he also began to explore different genres and styles of music. He wasn't content to stick to just one sound. He was drawn to everything from pop to R&B, funk to rock, and he spent time learning the intricacies of each style. Bruno's diverse musical tastes became a part of his unique sound, something that set him apart from other artists trying to make it in LA. Eventually, Bruno's efforts began to pay off, but not in the way he expected. He became a sought-after songwriter and producer. He wrote songs for other artists, including big names in the music industry. In 2009, one of his songs, Nothing on You, was released by the rapper B.O.B., featuring Bruno himself as a vocalist. The song quickly became a hit, reaching the top of the charts and making Bruno a household name. It was the break he had been waiting for. Bruno's ability to mix pop, funk, R&B, and rock created a sound that was fresh and different, and people loved it. The success of Nothing on You opened up new doors for Bruno. He was no longer just a struggling artist trying to find his way in the industry. He was now being recognized for his talent. Soon after, he was signed to a major record label, and his debut album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans, was released. The album featured hits like Just the Way You Are and Grenade, which became huge chart toppers. Bruno had finally made it. He was no longer the kid from Hawaii with big dreams, he was a worldwide sensation. His journey had taken him from humble beginnings to stardom, but he never forgot where he came from. However, this was just the beginning. Bruno's story was one of resilience, hard work, and never giving up, no matter how difficult the path seemed. He had faced rejection, setbacks, and countless struggles, but he had always believed in his talent and kept pushing forward. His journey to success would not have been possible without his unshakable belief in himself and his dream. He knew that if he wanted to make a name for himself, he had to stay true to his passion for music and continue to work hard, no matter what challenges came his way. Bruno Mars had come a long way from the small stages of Hawaii, and the world was about to see what he could do. Bruno Mars's early journey in the music industry had been filled with both challenges and small victories. After years of struggling in Los Angeles, the breakthrough he had been waiting for finally came when he worked on the song Nothing on You with rapper B.O.B. The success of that track brought Bruno a taste of what it was like to be in the spotlight. However, his rise to fame was about to take a dramatic turn, a moment that would change everything for him. It was 2010, and Bruno Mars was on the verge of stardom. His debut single had already cracked the charts, and he was starting to get more attention. He had just finished recording his own music and was preparing to launch his solo career. The world of music was buzzing with excitement about this fresh, new artist who seemed to have it all: charisma, talent, and a unique sound that blended various musical genres. But despite his success, Bruno still faced a world full of uncertainty and intense competition. One evening, Bruno was invited to a high-profile music event in Los Angeles. It was one of those exclusive gatherings where the industry's top stars mingled: producers, artists, songwriters, and people with power in the entertainment world. Everyone knew that this event could be the perfect opportunity to make important connections, sign deals, and get noticed. It was also a place where dreams could either soar or shatter, depending on how well you played your cards. But at this event, there was one person who stood above everyone else, a legendary figure whose music had changed the world: Michael Jackson. The king of pop was attending, and the entire room was electrified with his presence. People whispered about how rare it was to even see him in public. Michael Jackson wasn't just an artist, he was a symbol of success, talent, and influence. His music had inspired millions of people around the world, and just being in the same room as him felt like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. For Bruno, meeting Michael Jackson was not just a dream, it was the moment he had been waiting for. Bruno grew up listening to Michael's music, imitating his moves, and learning from his performances. To Bruno, Michael Jackson was the ultimate example of what it meant to be a true artist. The thought of getting close to him, of having a chance to talk to him, was both thrilling and intimidating. As the night went on, Bruno found himself surrounded by people he had admired from a distance. He couldn't believe he was standing among these icons, but his mind kept drifting back to one person: Michael Jackson. Bruno knew that this was his opportunity to make an impression, to let the king of pop know that he too was part of this world now, ready to take his place. But he also knew that the moment was fleeting. Michael Jackson was a huge figure, and opportunities like this didn't come often. Feeling the pressure and the excitement building inside him, Bruno made a bold decision. He saw Michael Jackson standing in a corner of the room, talking to a few people. Bruno knew he had to act fast. Without thinking too much, he made his way through the crowd, pushing past a few people to get closer. His heart raced as he approached the legendary figure, determined to seize the moment. But just as Bruno got close to Michael Jackson, something unexpected happened. The moment that he thought would be one of connection and possibility turned into something a little more tense. It wasn't that Michael had dismissed him, but Bruno's boldness in pushing through the crowd had caught the attention of others in the room. People looked at him, some with disapproval, others with surprise. Bruno, still eager to make an impression, didn't realize that his action had crossed a line. It wasn't so much that he had interrupted Michael's conversation, it was the fact that he had broken the unspoken rules of how things worked in such an exclusive environment. For a brief moment, Bruno felt a wave of embarrassment. He had done what many might have considered a rookie mistake, an ambitious but careless move. He had pushed through people and ignored the social norms of how to approach someone as important as Michael Jackson. The tension in the air made Bruno realize that sometimes, even the best intentions could come off wrong. He had hoped to make a strong impression, but instead, he had momentarily disrupted the flow of the event. However, something surprising happened after that brief awkwardness. Michael Jackson, with his usual grace, smiled and nodded at Bruno. He didn't seem upset or angry. Rather, he gave Bruno an acknowledgement that left the young artist feeling both relieved and excited. It was not the meeting Bruno had imagined, but in a way, it felt even more meaningful. Michael had noticed him not just as another fan, but as someone who was determined and bold enough to make his presence known. Bruno didn't get the chance to have a long conversation with Michael, but the brief interaction was enough to fuel his belief that he was on the right path. It was as if Michael had silently passed on the torch, acknowledging Bruno's drive and passion. In the days following the event, the Backstage incident began to spread through the music world. People were talking about it not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that highlighted Bruno's boldness and determination. It wasn't just about the mistake. It was about the fact that Bruno had dared to approach one of the most famous people in the world. That audacity didn't go unnoticed. It made people in the industry think, this guy is serious about his dreams. He's willing to do whatever it takes. When quote, Bruno's actions that night may have seemed like a small, insignificant event to some, but for him, it became a turning point in his career. Rather than shrinking back in shame, he used the moment as motivation. He realized that the music industry was not just about talent, it was also about making bold choices and standing out from the crowd. That night, Bruno had pushed through not just a physical crowd of people, but the mental barriers that had held him back. He wasn't just another struggling artist anymore. He was someone who had the guts to take risks. The word quickly spread that Bruno Mars wasn't afraid to go after what he wanted. While some people might have seen his actions as a mistake, others saw it as a sign of someone who wasn't afraid to put himself out there. That Backstage incident with Michael Jackson ended up becoming one of those key moments that defined Bruno's career. It was a story that would follow him for years to come, a reminder of how a single moment of boldness could change the course of a career. And so, Bruno Mars continued to rise. The music world began to take notice of this young, talented artist who had the courage to make waves, even in a world that could sometimes feel cold and indifferent. What began as a small, shaky step turned into the first of many bold moves that would eventually lead him to superstardom. Bruno had learned something important that night. Success doesn't always come from playing it safe. Sometimes, it comes from making mistakes, learning from them, and turning them into opportunities. Bruno Mars had already begun to make a name for himself in the music world, but the incident with Michael Jackson marked a turning point in his journey. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a sign that Bruno was willing to take risks, even if they were uncomfortable or difficult. Instead of shrinking back in shame, Bruno took that awkward moment and used it to fuel his determination. He didn't let the judgment of others, or the pressure of the moment, stop him from chasing his dreams. In fact, it was this very boldness that would soon become the defining trait of his career. After the backstage incident with Michael Jackson, Bruno's life began to change. It wasn't immediate, but the ripples of that moment started to spread throughout the industry. People started talking about him not just for the small mistake he made, but for the courage he showed in trying to make an impression on one of the greatest pop icons of all time. Bruno had shown that he wasn't afraid to approach someone as powerful as Michael, and that kind of audacity didn't go unnoticed. In the months following the event, Bruno found himself getting more and more opportunities. He continued to write and produce music. But now, his name was starting to pop up more frequently. Industry insiders and producers began to take a closer look at him. It was clear that Bruno wasn't just a talented artist. He was someone with a unique drive. He wasn't content to sit back and wait for things to happen. He was going after them, even if it meant taking risks or making mistakes along the way. One of the biggest changes came when Bruno's phone started ringing with more frequent calls from well-known producers and artists. They were interested in working with him. His breakthrough moment came when he was asked to collaborate with some major figures in the music world. One of the first big names to reach out was the rapper B.O.B. B.O.B. had already found success in the music scene, and his career was on the rise. When B.O.B. heard Bruno's voice and the unique sound he brought to his music, he knew he had to work with him. Together, they created the song "Nothing on You," which would go on to become a massive hit. For Bruno, this collaboration was a huge step forward. "Nothing on You" quickly became a chart-topping hit and was loved by listeners around the world. The song showcased Bruno's vocal talent and songwriting ability, but it also highlighted his skill in blending different musical styles, from pop to R&B to funk and hip-hop. This was the type of music that people couldn't help but listen to. It was catchy, heartfelt, and memorable. The success of "Nothing on You" opened many doors for Bruno. It was a clear signal to the music world that he was a force to be reckoned with. Suddenly, he wasn't just a background player anymore, he was an artist in his own right. The song went platinum, and Bruno found himself getting offers to work with more and more artists. People started recognizing him not only as a talented singer, but also as a gifted songwriter and producer. His career, which had once seemed like a distant dream, was now becoming a reality. But even with all the attention he was getting, Bruno didn't take his success for granted. He remained grounded, always remembering the struggles he had faced to get to this point. He understood that the music industry was fickle, and that success could be fleeting. It was this awareness that made him continue to push forward, constantly working on his craft and trying to improve himself. Bruno never lost sight of the fact that he wanted to make music that meant something to people. Music that could connect with them on a deeper level. As Bruno's career continued to grow, he began working on his debut solo album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans. He poured his heart and soul into the album, drawing from his personal experiences and the lessons he had learned along the way. The album was a mix of different genres, from smooth ballads to funky tracks that made you want to dance. The first single, "Just the Way You Are," became an instant hit. It was a song that spoke to the hearts of many, with its message of self-love and acceptance. Bruno's smooth voice and infectious personality shone through, and listeners couldn't get enough of it. "Just the Way You Are" was a game-changer for Bruno. The song reached the top of the charts, and Bruno's career skyrocketed. People around the world were beginning to fall in love with his music, and he was receiving more recognition than ever before. But even as his fame grew, Bruno remained focused on what mattered most to him, creating authentic music that resonated with people. He wasn't interested in fame for fame's sake. He wanted to be remembered for the music he created, for the way his songs made people feel. While Bruno's career was on the rise, he never forgot the early days of struggle when he was just another hopeful artist trying to get noticed. He knew how easy it was to be forgotten in the cutthroat world of the music industry, and he was determined not to let that happen. He worked tirelessly, always striving to create music that pushed boundaries and connected with people in new and meaningful ways. But success also came with its own set of challenges. As Bruno became more famous, he had to deal with the pressures of being in the spotlight. His personal life was no longer just his own, it was something that the public wanted to know everything about. For someone who had always valued his privacy, this was a difficult adjustment. He learned quickly that fame came with a price, but he didn't let it change him. He remained true to who he was, never losing sight of the person he had always been, before the world knew his name. In the years that followed, Bruno continued to release hit after hit. His music resonated with fans from all walks of life, and he became one of the biggest stars in the world. But even as his fame grew, he never stopped taking risks. He continued to experiment with new sounds and genres, always trying to push the limits of what music could be. Bruno Mars became a symbol of what was possible when talent, hard work, and a willingness to take risks came together. Looking back, Bruno saw the Backstage incident with Michael Jackson as a pivotal moment in his career. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a lesson in taking chances. If Bruno hadn't taken that risk, he might never have made the connections or the impact he did. The incident taught him that in order to succeed, sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone and take chances. It wasn't just about making an impression on others. It was about showing the world who you truly are. As Bruno's career continued to soar, he became known for his incredible performances, his chart-topping hits, and his ability to connect with audiences on a deep level. But he also became a symbol of perseverance, of someone who faced rejection and setbacks but never gave up on his dreams. His journey proved that with hard work, resilience, and a little bit of boldness, anything was possible. Bruno Mars's journey to stardom had been anything but easy. He had faced rejection, doubt, and the challenge of carving out his own space in an industry that was tough, competitive, and full of uncertainty. But all of his struggles began to pay off. And by 2010, Bruno was no longer an unknown artist trying to make a name for himself. He was an undeniable force in the music world. His rise was both quick and incredible. And it seemed like his name was on the tip of everyone's tongue. One of the most significant turning points in Bruno's career came with the release of his debut solo album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans. After years of working behind the scenes as a songwriter and producer, Bruno was finally ready to step into the spotlight as an artist in his own right. His first single, Just the Way You Are, became an instant hit, reaching the top of the charts and becoming a beloved anthem for people all around the world. It wasn't just the catchy melody or Bruno's smooth voice that made the song so special, it was the powerful message behind it. The song spoke to the idea that everyone is perfect just the way they are. A message that resonated deeply with listeners everywhere. Just the Way You Are was an unexpected success. The song quickly became a favorite on radio stations, and its popularity spread globally. Bruno's voice was unique, smooth, yet full of emotion, and his ability to blend different musical styles made him stand out from other artists. He wasn't just a pop singer. His music mixed elements of R&B, funk, soul, and even a bit of rock. His versatility as an artist gave him the freedom to experiment with different genres and sounds, which allowed him to build a connection with a wide range of audiences. But despite his early success, Bruno remained humble and grounded. He understood that fame could be fleeting and that his hard work wasn't over. Just the Way You Are was just the beginning, a stepping stone to what would become an incredible journey. Bruno knew he had more to give, more music to share, and more ways to connect with his growing fan base. The spotlight had found him, but now it was up to him to stay there and continue proving that he had what it took to make a lasting impact on the music world. As Bruno's career took off, he began performing at bigger venues, and collaborating with more artists. He had already made a name for himself as a gifted songwriter and performer, but now he was also proving himself as a true showman. He had always been a performer at heart. Whether he was impersonating Elvis as a child or playing small gigs in Los Angeles, his live performances were energetic, full of life, and impossible to ignore. He didn't just sing his songs. He brought them to life on stage, connecting with his audience in a way that was both personal and powerful. One of the biggest highlights of Bruno's rise to fame came when he was asked to perform at the 2011 Grammy Awards. This was a huge moment in any artist's career, and for Bruno, it was a chance to prove to the world that he wasn't just a one-hit wonder. He performed his smash hit Just the Way You Are, alongside the talented rapper B.O.B. And the performance was nothing short of electric. Bruno's stage presence was undeniable, and his energy was contagious. The performance was a major success, further solidifying his place in the music industry. The success of Doo-Wops and Hooligans was followed by more hit singles, including Grenade and The Lazy Song. Both tracks showcased Bruno's ability to write catchy, memorable songs with relatable themes. Grenade, in particular, was a powerful ballad about heartbreak and unrequited love, while The Lazy Song was a light-hearted, fun anthem for anyone who had ever just wanted to relax and take a break from the hustle and bustle of life. Bruno's ability to balance emotional depth with fun, upbeat songs made him stand out in the pop world, and his versatility was one of the reasons people loved him. As Bruno's career continued to soar, he began to win numerous awards and accolades. He received Grammy Awards, American Music Awards, and MTV Music Awards, each one a testament to his talent and hard work. But for Bruno, the real reward was the connection he made with his fans. His music was a reflection of who he was, and as he became more successful, he remained true to himself. He wasn't interested in trying to fit into a mold or chase after trends. He wanted to make music that was real, that spoke to people, and that was a true reflection of his life experiences. Through all the success, Bruno remained close to his family and never lost sight of the values that had been instilled in him as a child. He understood the importance of humility and gratitude, especially considering the difficult path he had traveled to get to where he was. He didn't take his fame for granted and always remembered the struggles he had faced before the success came. His story was one of perseverance, and he hoped that by sharing his music, he could inspire others to keep going after their dreams, no matter how tough the road might be. As Bruno continued to rise in the music world, he became known not just for his music, but for his incredible work ethic. He was often in the studio, writing new songs and working on new projects, constantly pushing himself to be better. Even though he had achieved incredible success, he never stopped working, never stopped growing as an artist. He knew that being at the top meant constantly evolving and adapting, and he was always looking for ways to challenge himself. His next big challenge came when he decided to take his live performances to the next level. Bruno's concerts were already known for their high energy and incredible stage presence, but he wanted to do something even bigger. He spent months planning and rehearsing for his world tours, making sure that every show would be an unforgettable experience for his fans. His live shows were more than just concerts, they were celebrations of his music, his journey, and his connection with his fans. Bruno gave everything he had to every performance, and his fans could feel the passion he brought to the stage. By now, Bruno Mars had become one of the biggest stars in the world, but he never forgot the lessons he had learned along the way. The backstage incident with Michael Jackson, while initially awkward, had taught him the importance of taking risks and seizing opportunities. Bruno had pushed through the crowd that night, eager to meet his idol, and that boldness had led him to places he never imagined. He had turned a small moment of embarrassment into a defining moment of his career, and that's what made him stand out in the music world. Bruno Mars wasn't afraid to be himself, to take chances, and to follow his heart, no matter the obstacles. Now, as a global superstar, Bruno was not just living the dream, he was inspiring others to do the same. His music touched millions of people around the world, and his story was proof that with hard work, persistence, and a little bit of audacity, anything was possible. Bruno Mars was no longer just a kid from Hawaii with a dream, he was a living testament to the power of following your passion and never giving up. As Bruno Mars continued to rise in the music world, his story became more than just one of talent and success. It became a story of resilience, perseverance, and self-belief. His journey from a young boy in Hawaii to one of the biggest global music stars was one that many could only dream of. And yet, through all the fame and accolades, Bruno never lost sight of what mattered most to him: making music that was real, meaningful, and authentic. Looking back on his career, Bruno often thought about the pivotal moments that had shaped his path. One of those moments, though small at the time, had been his audacious encounter backstage with Michael Jackson. It was a moment that could have been embarrassing, a mistake that could have set him back. But instead, it became the spark that ignited his drive to succeed. In the years that followed, Bruno reflected on that night as a turning point, a symbol of his boldness and determination to make it in the music world. It was this same attitude that helped him navigate the highs and lows of his career. Bruno's success was not just about hitting #1 singles or winning awards, though he certainly had his share of both. What made his rise to stardom truly remarkable was how he stayed grounded despite his growing fame. He was known for being humble, despite his success. He never took his achievements for granted. His humble beginnings in Hawaii, where he was just another aspiring artist struggling to get by, always reminded him of how far he had come. Bruno never lost sight of the lessons he had learned along the way. Lessons about hard work, sacrifice, and the importance of staying true to oneself. Throughout his career, Bruno's music continued to resonate with people all over the world. Each song he released, whether it was a slow ballad or an upbeat anthem, had a unique way of connecting with listeners. His songs spoke to universal experiences: love, heartbreak, joy, and self-empowerment. Bruno had a remarkable ability to take these emotions and turn them into something people could sing along to, dance to, and relate to. It was this connection with his fans that made his music so special. But fame was not always as glamorous as it seemed. The pressures that came with being in the public eye were something Bruno had to learn to deal with. He was no longer just a private individual, he was a global superstar, and his every move was scrutinized by the media and fans alike. Though he had achieved what many could only dream of, the constant attention sometimes made him long for the quiet days before the fame. But despite these challenges, Bruno never let the pressures of fame change who he was at his core. He remained the same person who had moved to Los Angeles with nothing but his dreams and his passion for music. He knew that the key to maintaining his sanity in such a fast-paced industry was staying true to himself and keeping his circle of close friends and family close. As Bruno's music career soared, he also began to expand into other areas of the entertainment industry. He was no longer just known as a singer, he was now a producer, songwriter, and even an actor. His collaborations with other artists became legendary. Whether he was working with legendary musicians, writing for up-and-coming stars, or performing at sold-out stadiums around the world, Bruno proved time and time again that he was a versatile talent who could excel in multiple areas. His ability to move seamlessly between different roles in the music world made him a true icon. One of the standout moments in Bruno's career came when he was invited to perform at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2014. For many artists, the Super Bowl performance is a career-defining moment, one of the highest honors in the music world. Bruno didn't just deliver a performance. He put on a show that captivated millions of viewers across the globe. His energy was infectious, his performance was flawless, and his ability to connect with the audience was undeniable. It was a moment that solidified Bruno Mars as one of the most powerful and influential performers of his generation. Yet, despite all the attention, Bruno never lost sight of what truly mattered to him: the music. His work ethic remained as strong as ever. He was often in the studio, writing new songs, experimenting with sounds, and constantly looking for ways to evolve as an artist. Bruno was never satisfied with staying in one place. He was always striving to push boundaries and try new things. He understood that to stay relevant in the music industry, an artist had to continue evolving and growing. This drive to always be better, to always strive for more, was part of what made Bruno Mars such a successful artist. His ability to adapt, to experiment with new genres, and to stay true to his roots while branching out in different directions kept him at the top of his game. But even with all of his success, Bruno remained humble and grateful. He was known for his deep appreciation of the fans who had supported him from the very beginning. Bruno understood that his success was not just the result of his talent, but also the love and loyalty of the people who listened to his music, bought his albums, and attended his concerts. He was incredibly thankful for every opportunity he received and every success he achieved. But he never forgot where he came from. He knew that without the support of his fans, he wouldn't be where he was today. Bruno's story was one of perseverance, ambition, and resilience. From the moment he stepped into the music world, he knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he was never deterred. Every setback, every rejection, and every challenge he faced only made him more determined to succeed. The lessons he had learned growing up about hard work, never giving up, and always being true to oneself were the foundation of his success. And it was this determination, combined with his incredible talent, that made him one of the most beloved and respected artists in the world. Looking back, Bruno often reflected on his early years, when he was just another kid with big dreams. He thought about how far he had come from singing Elvis songs in his living room to performing on some of the biggest stages in the world. He realized that the moment he pushed through that crowd backstage to meet Michael Jackson was not just an embarrassing mistake, it was a pivotal moment that pushed him to take risks, to be bold, and to go after what he wanted. That moment, though small in the grand scheme of things, helped shape the artist he would become. As Bruno Mars continued to release hit after hit and perform around the world, his legacy began to take shape. He wasn't just a pop star. He was an artist whose music touched people's lives, whose journey inspired others to follow their own dreams, and whose story proved that with hard work, perseverance, and passion, anything was possible. Bruno Mars's career was not just defined by his chart-topping singles or his award-winning performances. It was defined by his unwavering belief in himself and his ability to turn every setback into a stepping stone toward a Mars's success. And so, as Bruno looked ahead, he knew that his journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face, new risks to take, and new dreams to chase. But one thing was certain: no matter what happened next, he would always stay true to himself, always remember where he came from, and continue to make music that mattered.